if you want, you can go in peace. It's up to you. Heavenly Father, look after us today as we discuss your business and your counsel, and may our words and our judgments be in line with your views. May you look after the people who are here and the people who are travelling today, in whose precious and loving name. Amen. Amen. Councillors, okay, the first point of the meeting is actually we've got a presentation, oh yes. At the present moment we've got an apology from Councillor Roca. Do I have a move for that? No. Councillor Benny and Councillor Olsen. Thank you for that. All in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Excellent. Just to remind councillors, as always, we remind the councillors that it is being live streamed, and there is a supplementary report, item 6.14, which is approach to 2023-2024 annual plan. Do we need to do that now? Okay, right. I believe we've got a couple of speakers at the beginning, and the first speaker was Kim Robertson. You were the first speaker, and just for the councillor's point of view, we have an interpreter for him, okay?
Tina la koto kato ina data uti kuni hila o balas. Tina koti kanaki. Koto pai o luna koto kumuna. Ko wala tuku aba. Ko klipa tuku waka. Ko waratin tuku panu. Iti wai halakiki. Ko rudi pala tuku nanigila hola. Ko kim tuku ino. I noho ana ki banana. King di by mana, dinner patia, me by mana, amo, o dato, limo, o cow. O honey my dinner, by corn limo, o de, una o by caja, or limo, doho, o de, kumi. Hina o Whangarei. Tēnā koutou kia ora.
Kia ora, and greetings to Whangarei District Councillors. My name is Kim Robinson, and I'm originally from Blenheim, where my roots are, with my ancestors arriving in 1842 aboard the ship Clifford. I've arrived to Whangarei 11 years ago for the warm climate, which suits my arthritis. And I've grown to love it here, get to know people, and my partner and I have recently bought a home in Whangarei. I'm here as the chair for the Whangarei District Council's Disability Advisory Group, and I'm here to introduce you to what we do. And we have another member sitting in the whare this morning. And so I would like to explain to the Mayor and the Councillor, I would like to congratulate you first of all for your successful election. I imagine you've got a lot of mahi to get done in the next 3 years, so no mai hara mai. So the advisory group, we get together around a crystal ball and call upon higher powers to dream of the transformation of this district to become more accessible, the most accessible in the world, we wish. What we actually are a group of people with lived experiences of disabilities. So we get together with our community liaison person from the council, Claire, and we talk about various issues such as the beam scooters, the local elections, footpaths, and accessible parking. And so we're quite limited in what we can do and how we can do it. But Whangarei, in my opinion, can do better. So in Te Tai Tokiro, 29% of the population have disabilities. Only Taranaki or New Plymouth has more, with 32% of their population living with disabilities. So we've got high numbers. And barriers can happen anywhere and everywhere. So I introduced my talk with a whakatauki, which translates as, if it's important to say it in English, then it's important to say it in our official languages. And without sign language interpreting today, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in an advisory group having korero, or I wouldn't be delivering this speech to you now. So the council, we have a role to provide accessibility to our official languages throughout the community and within the council itself. And we also have obligations to the community to be accessible living here, and people who are moving into the region who have disabilities as well. So official languages, we need to, not only official languages, but also accessible formats like audio description, plain language, braille, New Zealand Sign Language, and various other means that people need to access our information and be included in our community. Not everybody can access English. If you have a look at this fire exit sign behind me, where's the official language version? It's not there. And so in many public places in Whangarei, there's no visual alerting devices, which is another name for a fire alarm that has a flashing strobe light to alert people to the need to evacuate the building. Did you know that there was 880,000 people in New Zealand living with hearing loss? That's a huge number. And so when a fire alarm goes, you just got to hope that someone's going to remember to check the toilets to make sure that those people evacuate safely. Friends and I have actually experienced this, being left behind in a fire escape because someone forgot to check the toilets. But if we had flashing light fire alarms, we too would be able to evacuate at the same time as everybody else. So hearing loss is not the only disability that is focused on the Disability Advisory Group. We have people from a range of disabilities: physical, hearing, neurodiversity, blindness, etc. And each member brings their own valuable life experience to feed into helping Whangarei to become more accessible. Whangarei has many barriers, such as poor street design. Just like outside the new Whangarei building, there's cars parked on the footpath, which mobility scooters can't get past, and there's poor public transport accessibility. People keep parking in mobility spaces without mobility parking permits. And a friend of mine, Johnny Wilkinson, who's been advocating for a long time to fix up the Whangarei pavements, but no one seems to be listening. The council has a duty to abide by the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in all their policies and bylaws that you're making. The purpose of the UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities is to promote and protect the full equal enjoyment and the rights of fundamental freedoms of all persons with disabilities. For example, from the UN Convention, the Office for the Ombudsman recently announced, related to in-flight safety, the Civil Aviation Authority of New Zealand, we had a concern that the UN Convention wasn't being met because their in-flight safety videos did not include sign language, which is the official language of our country. And so, you know, if deaf people miss out on that important going to happen in the case of an emergency. So the Ombudsman has since ruled that the Civil Aviation Agency needs to ameliorate that situation. So really what we're wanting for Whangarei is full accessibility for disabled people. And I'm just going to put it out there, one way you can help is to make the parking fines for people parking on disability parking spaces $1,000. Some countries have a fine of up to $5,000. And that would be a big help because then people won't be parking on our spot. Oh, the bell has rung, I've just been alerted to. So a couple of months ago I sent in some photos of car parks, people parking on the grass and the footpath to the council's reporting app, and those cars are still parked there. And so I've seen a komatsu on a mobility scooter having to go onto a dangerous section of the road to avoid a car that's parked on the footpath. And this is on a blind corner with buses and trucks going around it. And somebody who decided that, you know, the berm was part of their car mechanic business. So, you know, this is a great issue for the council, and we're still, you know, and the bean scooters are still being talked about online. A person with disabilities posted on Facebook recently about not being able to go past a car parked on the footpath. Oh, sorry, a bean scooter on the footpath. And we had an 8-year-old with a walker who had to actually physically move a bean scooter out of the way to get past. And why is this happening? Like, we should all be able to get from point A to point B safely, to get our kai, our meds, you know, our healthcare, whatever we need. And so I think that universal design really needs to, and only 5% of housing in New Zealand is fully accessible for people with disabilities. Like, think about trying to find a rental with such a rare, you know, a rare commodity to find. And so I think our bylaws and everything needs to include universal design principles when creating new housing. And our disability advisory group members are getting a remuneration of $40 a month. You're really wanting to buy world-class advice with only $40? Some of our members are getting $300 plus expenses covered to provide a very similar level of advice. So just think about, you know, thinking about valuing our advice with financial recognition as well. Because we're really here, we're keen to help you fix up the issues. So ngā mihi everyone, and tēnā koutou katoa.
Thank you, Kim. Is there any questions for Kim? No questions. Our second speaker is Ray Tiraka, Lucky. Just at the front there. If that's you, yep, come up to that one. No, just there, just there.
Oh, yeah.
It's there. And you can sit if you want to, but take your time.
I'm good. Okay. Hi, my name is Raina Tiaraki. I live in Romanga. They said they put this plan in for Romanga to get bus. So I put this about 3 years ago, and the plan is there. But the only problem is nothing's going to happen till 24, 25. It took 3 years to put this plan in. That's okay. I just want to have Romanga a safe, good community, because where they need the roundabout is by the school, by the kindergarten, by bunnies, by gold. I just need to polish whoever's going to action it I would love to see our community safe. Because a guy just got killed on Murdoch. Now, something is going to happen between Murdoch, Fairdown, and Tauroa, because it's quite busy. And I see every day on that road motorbikes, speeding cars. Now, it would be nice if even somebody could go and get a piece of land for these young guys to get out there and take their whatever motorbike and stuff out there. They can go on the field and take it on the field and leave it there. At least our community is going to be safe, because I don't know if you guys are listening. I hope you are, because I want something to action. Because I'm not waiting till 24 and 25. Why? You can start next year. You can start next year. All I want to do is keep Raumanga a safe community. And I hope you guys are hearing my voice, because I'm doing it for Raumanga. For Raumanga. And I want to keep, I hope you fellas are listening, to keep our community safe, because we have lots of kindergarten. There's 2 lots of kindergarten. There's a school there. And plus having buddies there, and McDonald's, and the goal, kids will go down there to go to McDonald's. And you know they love McDonald's. I see a lot of bunch of kids go down there. I do. And all I want is you guys is to please put that road bump from Murdoch, Fairdown, all the way to Tauroa and Smeaton. Because there is a lot of kids. That's why we got the bus to pick our tamarikis up, to keep them safe. And the biggest safe I would love Raumanga to have is to have that bump from Murdoch right down to the bottom, going right to Tauroa Street and all up Smeaton. I hope you guys are listening, because I really do care for our community. If we want to keep our community safe, we've got to use our voices. You've got to listen to us. You know, I'm not educated. I'm here just to speak my voice, and that's all you need, is for you, all you people, to listen to us, even though I am by myself. One person will make Raumanga a happy community. And we love to see them smile. We love to korero. We love to do things. And I hope you guys are actually listening, because I really do want it to action next year. Not 24, not 25. We've already waited for a plan. The plan's there, but when is it going to action? Come on, guys, you fellas are the ones that's listening, and you're the one that says, yes, okay. All of you, and you know it. You know it. And that's all I want to hear from you guys. Okay. I'll be the happiest person in Raumanga to keep our community safe. Thank you for listening. And I hope you guys, sorry, I'm speaking a bit loud. I'm sorry for speaking a bit loud, but because I want you guys to hear me. Come on. I might be for one person, but I'm out there for the hundreds out there that lives on Raumanga Street. And you fellas know it. You fellas know it. Okay? Well, that's all I've got to say.
Thank
Thank you very, very much for listening.
Thank you.
For listening.
Thank you for taking the time to come in. Much appreciated.
No, I'm appreciated that all you guys listened. Because that's all you need to do, is listen. Just like when you go to school. Now, did you listen? Oh, did you listen, Mama? No, they don't listen. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you to our speakers, thank you to our audience, staff, good to see you, and I know we're all listening and we're all hearing from what both of our speakers have been saying about our community and the needs of our community. I'm going to move on to item 5.1, which is on page 4 of the agenda, or page 7 in the digital world. Do I have a mover for the previous minutes, including confidential? Councillor Harding, Councillor Reid. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. The next agenda item is 6.1. It's on page 10 of the paper version, or page 13 of the digital. Decision making over the 2023-23 Christmas recess period. Do we have a mover for that one? Councillor Cooper, Councillor Hobbs. Councillor Cooper, would you like to read it out for the audience, please?
Okay. The recommendation is that the Council delegates the power to make urgent decisions on behalf of Council or its committees between the last scheduled meeting in December 2022 and the first meeting of Council or its committees in 2023, i.e. the 2022-23 Christmas recess period. 2. Any two of either of the Mayor or Deputy Mayor and the Chairperson of either the Finance, Infrastructure, Strategy, Planning and Development, Community Development or Tika Rearea Strategic Partnership and Standing Committees. That was point 1. Point 2. In the event of the Mayor and Deputy Mayor are both absent from Council at the same time, delegates the power to make urgent decisions on behalf of Council or its committees over the 22-23 Christmas recess period. 2. Any two chairpersons of either the Finance, Infrastructure or Strategy Planning and Development, Community Development or Tika Rearea Strategic Partnership Standing Committees. 3. Notes that it is considered necessary, if it is considered necessary, an extraordinary meeting of Council will be called during the 22-23 Christmas recess period. 4. Notes that if the urgent decision-making process is exercised, the instances will be reported to the first Council or relevant committee meeting in 2023. 5. Designates Councillor Nicholas Connor the authority under Section 25(5) of the Civil Defence Emergency Management Act 2002 to declare a local emergency in the event the Mayor is unavailable. It does say that here. Over the 22-23 Christmas recess period. That is the motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Would you like to speak to the motion, or are you fine?
Oh, I think I've done that.
Councillor Connor.
Yes, Councillor Cooper, you did read that right. It does put that onto me. This is point 5 is one thing that I took kind of a shock me last term, really, when I got the powers gifted to me to do this. Hope I never will have to use them, and hopefully you are never incapacitated enough or unavailable to not be able to be in this position myself. But it's one position that I don't take lightly, and I appreciate the weight of it and the amount of staff and support that will be able to support if this decision would have to come by. Ensuring that we have, for the rest of us, support going through to make decisions to ensure that the council systems stay up is imperative, and fully support the motion and accept the delegation.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments to this? Councillors, it has been moved, it has been seconded, and Councillor Cooper, you did read it correctly. Would you like a right reply?
No, thank you.
Okay, just checking on that one. It has been moved to second. All in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Item 6.2, which is on page 12 of the paper version or page 15 of the digital version. And there, I believe I'm supposed to read this one, yes. This is once again a continuation of our outside organisations and appointments. And I will move the motion including W, X and Y, and I'll just explain those ones. So as you can see there, it's one which approves the appointment of elected members as council representatives to outside organisations. You've got Greenhead Conservation Trust, which is Councillor Patrick Holmes, Hatia Art Precinct, Councillor Ken Cooper, Whangarei Sports Community Complex, Councillor Simon Reid, Whangarei Retirement Village, Councillor Gavin Benny and Councillor Scott McKenzie, Northern Athletics and Gymnasium, Councillor Phil Hulse, Northern Craft Trust, or Corey Arts Centre, I got it right, thank you, Councillor Nicholas Connor, Northern Road Safety Trust, Councillor Simon Reid, Sawalsa Retirement Village Trust, Councillor Phil Hulse, Stonehaven Village Trust, Councillor Phil Hulse and Councillor Ken Cooper, the Mission to Seafares Marsden Point, Councillor Ken Cooper, Tutukaka Marina Management Trust, Councillor Scott McKenzie, Whangarei Harbour Marina Management Trust, Councillor Phil Hulse and Councillor Deborah Harding, Whangarei Museum and Heritage, or Kiwi North, Councillor Marie Olsen and Councillor Simon Reid, Whangarei Quarry Gardens Trust, Councillor Marie Olsen, Disability Advisory Group, Councillor Marie Olsen and Councillor Carol Peters, Hikarangi Flood Management Scheme Working Group, Councillor Gavin Benny and Councillor Simon Reid, Positive Ageing Advisory Group, Councillor Marie Olsen, Walking and Cycling Reference Group, Councillor Gavin Benny, Youth Advisory Group, Councillor Phoenix Brooker and Councillor Nicholas Connor, Chamber of Commerce and Industry of North, that should be the Northern Chamber of Commerce, Councillor Carol Peters, City Safe, Councillor Gavin Benny, the Creative Communities Assessment Committee, Councillor Carol Peters, and then we have W, which is the Kaipara Moana Working Group, Councillor Phil Hulse as primary and Councillor Deborah Harding as alternate. X, Waste Minimisation Management Plan Project Delivery Group, Councillor Nicholas Connor and Councillor Marie Olsen. And Y, Airport Relocation Study Project Control Group, Councillor Patrick Holmes, Simon Reid, Councillor Simon Reid and Councillor Felix Rooker. And then we have item 2, which is nominates Councillor Carol Peters to be appointed as trustee to Creative Northlands Trust. And 3, which is notes communications made to other outside organisations where formal appointments have historically been made. There is a huge list here, and I've read them all. Do I have a second? Councillor Nicholas Connor. Any discussion, councillors? Councillor McKenzie. Did I read something wrong?
No. Quite the contrary. Just wanted to say it's an honour to be appointed to the Tutukaka Management Marina Trust. They obviously are in the process of repairing from having suffered substantial damage in the tsunami a couple of years ago. That's been extremely challenging, and dealing with an insurance claim of that scale. For the safety of the Whangarei District Council owned asset, they are looking to also embark on the proposal of changing the breakwater to prevent further tsunami damage in a subsequent event. And that's something that they'll need to work alongside council with very closely in order to achieve that outcome and keep the community safe. Also looking forward to serving the community with the appointment to Whangarei Retirement Village.
And remind councillors that when we speak to the motion, please speak to the motion of the appointments rather than expanding on that. So councillor gave us some leniency there, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Bishop. I'm privileged to take up these roles. It's going to be a massive challenge, but I'm up for it. And also I noticed the Forest Garden Trust isn't on here.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yes.
Sorry.
That was in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my apology. But yes, thank you. I'll do my best.
Councillor Peters.
Thank you for that, Your Worship. This shows the interconnection with the community that we have, and which is an important part of our work over the next 3 years. So thank you for that.
Councillor Connor.
Thank you, and once again, also just great to be on a few of these committees, and I'm looking forward to working with them. There are a few. Over my 2 terms so far within council, these have changed around slightly for appointed people onto, and there's community groups and other groups as well. And it's great to hear that we are attempting to work around the other groups also. Whilst these ones we are appointed to, the councillors are discussing ways of attending other meetings also. So it's, whilst they may not be appointed to, they are also supported.
Thank you for raising that, Councillor Connor. Yes, that's correct. There are still more committees out there which we may be appointing to, but there are quite a few community organisations which are still loving our attendance to them. Any other comments or questions? The item has been moved and seconded. I will not have the right to reply, and I will, all in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. And great to see your appointments and continue going. Item 6.3, page 30 or page 33 in the digital world. Yes, that's correct. You are looking, item 6.3, do I have a mover for that? Councillor Connor, you'd like to move the elected members' remuneration decision? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cooper. Would you like to read it out aloud, Councillor?
Thank you. Recommendations that the Council, 1, adopt the following recommendation to submit the Remuneration Authority for remuneration of positions of additional responsibility and allocation of the total remuneration pool for the 2022 to 23. Deputy Mayor, 1 position, 60% or a ratio of 1.6. Committee Chair, 5 positions, 30% or a ratio of 1.3. Deputy Chair, 3 positions, 20% or a ratio of 1.2. And Chair of Civic Honours Committee, 1 position, 5% or a ratio of 1.05. 2. Notes the Remuneration Authority requires a recommendation by 27th of January 2023 to meet the deadline for amended determination. 3. Note that the changes to governance structure during this term of council that change the number of positions of responsibility held by elected members will require the reallocation of the remuneration pool. 4. Delegates to the Chief Executive the responsibility of ensuring the documentation is completed for the Remuneration Authority.
Councillors, it has been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to it?
Thank you. As one of the councillors with no added responsibility, I thought I would move this as I will be not, in a manner of speaking, not benefiting from any extra payment. However, that also means I will not also have to have any added responsibility in this space. Whilst we all have a responsibility to our district and to our community groups, and as we just had the other appointments, these are all within the realm of the role of a councillor. I move this because I understand also with the deputy mayor position that Councillor Hulse is taking up, and with you helping move some not responsibility, but bringing the level of effort up into Councillor Hulse's position, I understand the weighting that has been given to this. We have gone through a discussion through a workshop, and I'm supportive of this motion.
Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to thank Councillor Connor for moving it and the words that he spoke, just in the motivation that he just verbalised for doing so. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts that the elected members put in to reach this decision, and also I would like to acknowledge the leadership that's been shown by you, Your Worship, in terms of building resilience into the elected members and creating the positions of deputy chairs. I think it's a wonderful innovation. I think the public should take heart from the fact that people are thinking towards the future and that the experience is being built in some of the new elected members. Should some of us fall by the wayside through the rigours of elections, there will be others who understand what is going on. So I'd just like to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any other comments to this? No? Okay, councillors, it's been moved and second. All those in favour? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item 6.4, which is on page 46 or page 49 of the digital version. Thank you, by the way, Emily. We have the temporary road closure. Do I have a mover for Councillor Hulse and Councillor Olsen? Councillor Hulse, would you like to read the motion, please?
Thank you, Your Worship. It's, I haven't been able to move these ones because I was actually on the Northern Event Centre Trust, but gives me great pleasure to move this one. The Whangarei District Council, one, approves the proposal to temporarily close the following roads to ordinary traffic for the LAB concert on the following date in accordance with the Vehicular Traffic Road Closure Regulations 1965. Saturday, the 4th of February 2023. Akara Drive from the roundabout at Akara Drive and Paroni Ave to the roundabout at Akara Drive and Port Road. The period of closure, 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. 2. Approves the proposal to temporarily close the side roads off the road to be closed for up to 100 metres from the intersection for safety purposes. And 3. Delegates to the Chair of the Infrastructure Committee and General Manager of Infrastructure the power to give public notice of these proposed temporary closures, to consider any objections, to either approve, cancel or amend any or all of the temporary road closures if applicable. Thank you.
Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Hulse?
Yes, I would. I said LAB is probably the second ranked concert entertainers in the country at the moment, and we've had them up here before and they're very, very popular. But as part of our event strategy, to have events on for our public and our community, and Northern Event Centre is positioning itself very, very well to host these events and bring it on. We need more of these, and it's quite interesting when you watch the events down there, how different demographics attend different things. And I think we as leaders need to make sure that all parts of our communities have the opportunity to express themselves and enjoy themselves in these type of events. So very supportive of it. Thank you.
Councillor Hulse. Councillor Hulse.
Thank you. Very supportive of putting this forward as this. One thing I would hope that we've hopefully learned from the Women's Rugby World Cup, that road closures, 1, cause traffic backup, and 2, people parking on footpaths. So I hope that it is managed properly. I will not be stopping on this point, as we had the Disability Advisory Committee this morning speaking to people parking on footpaths. I'm also grateful to see, whilst not on this topic, the Poi Island event that is going ahead this weekend, hopefully, with guidance to buses and alternatives to be able to get around, whilst also supporting those who may have limited mobility to be able to park on Poi Island. It's great to have events like this happening once again, and long may they last.
Right, the item has been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussion? No. All in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. We'll move on to item 6.5, which is on page 54 or page 57 in the digital world. It's the Northern Road closure for the Northern Car Club Hill Climb Series. Councillor Peters will first and Councillor Olsen for second. Just I'll just double check and make sure anyone else is on. Councillor Peters, would you like to move the motion? You've got the motion there. Read the motion, just say.
That the Whangarei District Council approve the temporary closure of the following roads to ordinary traffic for the Northern Car Cup hill climb series on the following dates in accordance with section 3421B and section 10 clause 11 of the Local Government Act 1974. Sunday the 12th of March 2023, Whangarei Caves Road from Roundtree Road to McDonald Road. Sunday the 30th of April 2023, Coxhead Road from the end of Coxhead Road to State Highway 15. Sunday 18th of June 2023, Rossile Road, Rossile, from 2.5 kilometres from State Highway 1 to 400 metres from State Highway 1. Sunday the 9th of July 2023, Springfield Road from Ormiston Road to 7.5 kilometres from State Highway 1. Period of closure 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. 2. Approves the temporary closure of the side roads of the roads to be closed for up to 100 metres from the intersection for safety purposes. And 3. Delegates the chair of the infrastructure committee and general manager infrastructure the power to give public notice of these temporary road closures.
Councillor Peters, since it's been moved and seconded, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I just think that this is a fabulous event, which is terrific, and I thank the two councillors from that area, Councillor Cooper and Councillor Hoss, and all their constituents for allowing this to happen in Sarah, because I realise it's an inconvenience to them, but it makes things vibrant and interesting.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else like to speak to it? Sorry. Councillor Hogan, was that a yes to wanting to speak to it?
No, Your Worship, that was me scratching my nose, my apologies.
Okay, so the item has been moved and seconded. Oh, so Councillor Reid, you'd like to speak to it?
Yeah, just to note that Coxhead Road is actually in the Whangarei ward.
Oh, thank you to Councillor Reid too.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. We'll now move on to item 6.6, which is on page 68 or page 71 of the digital world, which is the natural bill for environment bill and spatial planning bills. We have Councillor Mackenzie is going to move it and Councillor Peters is going to second it. Before Councillor Mackenzie moves it, I just want to make note that there has been a change in the date from the submission. It actually says that the submission is supposed to be on I think the 30th of January. It has been moved graciously by the government to the 5th of February 2023. Councillor Mackenzie.
The recommendation is that the council, note that the date for the closing submission of the natural and built environment and spatial planning bills is the 5th of February 2023, meaning any submission of council must be lodged before the first council meeting of 2023. 2. Delegate to the Mayor and Councillor Ken Cooper the authority to approve any submissions on the above two bills so that the submissions can be lodged on time.
It has been moved and seconded. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is a very appropriate appointment of delegating the power to His Worship the Mayor and Councillor Ken Cooper, who I'm sure understand the full depth and breadth of the proposed changes and be able to help out with the submission accordingly. I'll be available for any consultation if needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Peters.
This is really important that we have a voice in these new changes, and I'm sure that, like Councillor Mackenzie, I'm sure that you two are up to setting the course for the strategic future of Whangarei for the next, probably it'll be 30 years before they change it again. Yeah, so it's actually quite important. Yeah.
Councillor Hay.
I'm heartened to see that the inclusion of sharing our submissions with the wider community, including Hapu, that obviously in terms of the kaitiakitanga and manawa te whenua, but don't always have that capacity to be able to put through a really strong submission within the short time frame. So I was really pleased to see that inclusion in there.
Councillor Cooper.
Just very quickly for those people who are perhaps listening online, this submission is, that will be made as a result of several workshops and, as Councillor Harding noted, collaboration with Hapu, Iwi and the other councils in the north. So I'm thinking of people like our past Deputy Mayor Greg Innes, who may be listening and wondering how much thought has gone into this. A lot has, and while I appreciate Councillor Mackenzie's confidence in myself, we will really just be looking at and checking for obvious mistakes in the submission, which has been the result of a lot of work, and I should congratulate the staff and the team and the work that they've put in, and thank you very much.
For the benefit of the audience, I'm positive that Councillor Cooper is not saying that he's not going to understand the information that he's going to have to read, but he will be actually involved in the discussion process. So. Is there any other discussion? No? Okay. Would you like to reply? Would you like to reply? No. Okay. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much again. We'll now move on to item 6.7, which is on page 72 or 75 of the digital world, which is the Northland CDEM Group Multi-Agency Coordination Centre funding. You're back in the hot seat. You're in and out of that hot seat quite a bit, aren't you? Thank you, Victoria. Do I have a mover? Yes, Councillor Peters and Councillor Connor will second it. Councillor Peters, would you like to read it?
That the council, contingent on funds being provided by all Civil Defence Emergency Management Group members, approve additional operational expenditure of $250,000 to contribute towards funding the Northland Multi-Agency Coordination Centre for the benefit of the region in the next annual plan 2023-2024.
It's been moved to to speak to it.
Yes, just that with an indication of the last 5 years, this committee, it is really important to do this, put this amount of money. This committee actually does possibly, hopefully not, but probably will have quite a lot to deal with over the next 3 years. Thank you.
Yes, Connor.
Thank you. As the alternate on the civil defence thing, and to yourself there, I fully support this motion. It is imperative that we, as part of Te Tau Grau, support the civil defence in these matters. It's good to be seeing it in a secure location, top of the lava flow, up by the fire station, which is nice and close for them. But also, it's great to know that within our civic centre that we're building right next door to us here, that we have a space available for civil defence within it, should anything come pass, to support them also. So it's great to see us supporting this. Thank you.
I'll just see if Victoria wants to say anything.
Just that, through you, the Chair, the centre is a benefit to the Whangarei District Council. It will be our primary place to respond to emergencies in the district.
Councillor.
Question of clarification, Your Worship. Approve additional operating expenditure contribute towards the funding of the Northern thing in the next annual plan. So is it, are we provide, because it's a grant, it's operational funding, is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you do read it, it is contingent on all the other councils being involved in it as well. So it's not just us, it's all councils being involved in this. It has been, Councillor House.
I just want to speak to this one. Yeah, this proposal has been sitting around for a number of years now, and it's time we actually moved on it, but I just want to encourage all the new councillors to actually go along to one of these civil defence situations we do have, and it's quite impressive when you see our senior management team and our staff come together and they've got it nailed. They're very, very efficient. But in this case, we'll have our emergency services in the same building, everyone, all the same screens, instead of coming down and look at the screens up behind you then. It'll be a lot easier for everyone to manage. So, as Northland grows, so we've got to grow our capabilities in this type of space. So, good luck and I hope we get it done. So, thank you.
I don't think anyone would ever say how much we're not actually needing this, so it's a good thing. Councillor, it's been moved and seconded. We've had a discussion. All in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6.8, which is on page 118 or 121 of the Digital World. Now this is the Whangarei Memorandum of Understanding, or the MOU, for Water Supply Network. Do I have a mover? Councillor Reid is moving it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Connor. Councillor Reid, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. That the Council authorises staff to work with Whangarei District Council and Whangarei Developments Limited to determine if a water supply from Bream Bay to Whangarei will be a viable project. 2. Authorises the Chief Executive to sign a Memorandum of Understanding outlining the investigation works to be considered for the development of the proposal. This is... we are not giving an undertaking that we will supply. There is a lot of work to be done yet. This is just a heads up formation of ideas and to check viability, because we do have the capacity, now that we've lost our refinery, that we have spare water available, and what better place to send it than to a neighbour. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper, do you like to speak to me?
Thank you, I do, Your Worship. I think the key for me is what Councillor Reid just said then. There's a lot of work to do if this motion goes ahead, there is a lot of work to do. And I would wonder, for several reasons, why we would take that work on now. The government has strongly signalled, seems likely that Three Waters will go ahead. This would fit squarely into the work of the new water entity. In the meantime, we already know that our staff and our organisation has a lot of work to do, and I don't understand why we would pay our people to do work which will then be taken off us and go to a new entity. The other concern that I have as a councillor representing the Bream Bay ward is that while Councillor Reid is accurate, the refinery has closed down, and we have an area that is zoned for heavy industrial. We have the finest deep water port in the southern hemisphere. We want to make sure that we have enough water for any future industry that may come along. Now, people may answer that by saying, well, even with the refinery, we had plenty of headroom for growth. That's fine, but in the meantime, we don't know. If a hydrogen plant, for instance, does go there, that would require more water than the refinery. So I personally won't be supporting this motion. I think it is something that we don't need to take on now when we are so busy with many other things. Thank you.
Councillor
Thank you. I just want to, I want to support Councillor Cooper. I note in the Whakawhiti Corridor, number 4, discussion of a statement that does not commit any of the parties. This is the MOU.
It does not commit any of the parties to undertaking any particular works or costs other than staff time. And we've heard from a lot of the staff and management, and they have been piled with projects upon projects, and squeezed around resourcing and staff time. With what we've been handed down from central government, that's kind of forcing our strategic direction. This is just another thing that is going to implode on their time. I also have, I guess, another cultural perspective around that water, that body of water moving from one rohe to another, and that's another conversation. But I note in the MOU that there was specific, kind of consultation methods that do need to be undertaken. But I'm in the mindset of supporting the stance of council.
Jim, do you want to make any comments to some statements here? I just want to check it from your point of view as the infrastructure manager.
I think through the chair, appreciate the comments. There is an opportunity for work to be funded by the developer.
Grab some, sorry.
Good water. Yeah, sorry, through the chair. I guess the opportunity and acknowledging that we are understaffed and we do have constraints. The opportunities with the developer to invest in this investigation, but acknowledge that the costs that have been met, so I'll leave it in your hands.
Councillor Hodson. Thank you, Jim.
Yes, thank you, Worship. I've got a similar stance to fellow councillors on my left here. Being in the Green Bay area and knowing the size of the area and being at one stage a commissioner of the sat-in on the development of Rukai Structure Plan, the potential of that plan is to go to 17,000 houses plus service 740 hectares of industrial commercial land. Now, it's all very well now to look at a snapshot of where we are now, but we do these plans for a reason, to put infrastructure in place. Since we put that plan in paper, we've built the Wilson Dam, we've spent close to $16 million on water treatment plants in the area to make sure that plan was fully serviced to its capacity. Okay, so that's the first point. As a councillor, I need to be really secure that we've got enough water going forward. The second one is, this is very much like a resource consent. If you don't oppose things, nothing gets looked at. So you need to be in the game to make sure you get some response to your requests. When we discussed this at the workshop, I mentioned quite clearly that I was chair of the Cotton Moana working group, and the sewage plant exit goes into a tributary of the Kaipara Harbour. Now, when you put water in one end, water generally comes out the other end. So I want to make sure that the wastewater is looked at part of this proposal, because I don't want to give Kaipara another problem. We know that there's a problem there. We need to make sure it's addressed. They've already seen the demise of the Kaipara Harbour over the sewage plant at Whangarei, and it's important that we make sure that they've got the capacity to handle any extra water that may go that way if the council so decide. So at the moment, I'm making a request to staff to address all matters in the memorandum of understanding and make sure all the bases are covered, and then I'll review my position then. But at the moment, I'm supporting my fellow councillors on my left. Thank you.
Councillor McKenzie.
I'm inclined to agree with the councillors on that side of the room who have spoken. I note that the proposed costs are $40 to $60 million. Whangarei District Council has not allocated any of their funds in the long-term plan, neither has Kaipara District Council, and there is a somewhat vague statement that the developer has indicated they would be willing to contribute towards the extension of the network and the upgrade of the system. That doesn't fill me with confidence, and given the uncertainty around the changes with Three Waters, it seems inadvisable to proceed with negotiation at this time.
Councillor King.
A couple of questions. Firstly, why are we doing this? Are we doing this to show a bit of love to our neighbour, or are we doing this because it's financially a good project for WDC?
Through the chair. So obviously, in recognition of the loss of revenue from the refinery, we increased our water rates. So there would be there isn't a deficit at the moment, but this would allow us to change that balance and potentially reduce the cost to our existing customers. It does from a, I guess from a, if we look at the water supply and resilience, what's happening at the moment is that the Whangarei and the Kuiper area does take water from the Ruakaka area. It's just that it comes over in water trucks and then it's driven back over. So it is a bigger benefit, I guess you are. It's looking at more holistically about how we supply water. There is a lot of work to do in the investigation and to round it up, to understand the financial aspects of it, how it works. And that's what the intent of the MOU is to understand and to address some of those concerns.
Because my follow-up question was going to be, is the financial gain significant enough to warrant the work to be done? But I think you've answered that, and that the next step is to look into that to see whether it is. Okay, thank you.
Just a question from myself, Jim. This, and it's been highlighted by Councillor Benny, this is really, the MOU is basically to start the process of actually checking, isn't it?
It is, Your Worship, through yourself. There have been conversations going on with the developer for some time. The plan change for Whangarei Central was passed and the construction is taking place. They have an interim solution, but as you say, now is really the time from a Kuiper perspective to look at this as a holistic system and to understand not just what the immediate provision of water might look like, but also in the longer term there needs to be a water supply at the other side, and this is all tied into the whole catchment consideration.
And the Kuiper, I acknowledge the Kuiper are looking into this approach, and one of the options that they've actually said is for us to be involved, or has it come directly solely from the developer?
Yeah, through the chair, in my previous role, so we were having these conversations, myself and Simon, in terms of what do we do in terms of our growing region. So not, Lions Beach, the Whangarei, Green Bay, we have a whole area that's growing and we need a sustainable solution going into the future to be able to service that growth. Kuiper in their infrastructure strategy, there is a high level indication and obviously in our long-term plan, in our infrastructure strategy is identified where it's further out. So this is really looking to see whether we can go forward. The developers' willingness to invest at this stage.
Thank you, Simon, did you want to say anything to this? Or?
Yes, I can comment. The comments around this organisation's busyness is true. We are stretched beyond what we can deliver currently. This would be seen as probably a lower priority than other works that are being done. However, it is timely in regards to a developer that's willing to consider putting reticulation in the development plan. Well, I think for numerous decades there has been an acknowledgement or a consideration that at some point in the future services may well be linked between Waipu and Whangarei. So having a developer that's interested in the project is kind of a key component. I also acknowledge that there could be competing priorities in the future with the developments that are going on in Ruakaka and repurposing potentially the refinery there too, so there could be future competing priorities around. At the moment we do have a surplus of water and we have lost revenue with the closing of the refinery. That surplus of water brings about operational problems. However, this particular proposal probably wouldn't sort that out in the near term. I think in the long term it would potentially require further development of water sources on the Whangarei side.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Councillor Reid, you'd like a right of reply?
Yes, I would, Your Worship. Thank you. Just a reminder that this is a viability option. It's not signing an agreement to actually go forward with the supply. And in the conversation, we will be most likely investigating the further need in the Waipu-Land Cove area, because we are aware that the pipeline to there is going to be a restricted item very shortly due to the development that's going on. So that's it. Just all we want to do is see where we can go, what options are. We're not actually committing to go ahead and spend money. Thank you. Division, please.
The division has been called. The motion has been moved and seconded. As the division has been called, could I all have the council, those who are in favour, to raise their right hand, please.
Councillors Benny, Connor, Reid, and His Worship the Mayor.
Those against?
Councillors Mackenzie, Peters, Jovich, Golightly, Cooper, Harding, Hulse, Holmes.
Motion. Any of those abstaining?
Councillor Olsen.
Simply,
Thank you.
yes.
Okay, the motion has been lost. Is that correct? Just make sure my calculation is correct on the right hand.
We are
Oh, sorry, councillors, we're going to need to call it again. Nicolene had the wrong sheets and she couldn't record everyone's names down correctly, so she's just coming back out again. So apologies about that, councillors. As I said before, the division has been called. You'll bring anything? Okay. So all those in favour again, please.
Councillors Benny, Connor, Reid, and His Worship the Mayor.
And those against?
Councillors Mackenzie, Peters, Jovich, Golightly, Cooper, Harding, Hulse, and Holmes.
And those abstaining? The motion is lost. I was correct on that, but we just have to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. Item 6.9, page 132 or 135 in the digital world. Appointment of registered pecuniary interests. And I will move this as that the council, appoint the manager of democracy and assurance to the role of registrar under section 54G of the Local Government Act 2002 to compile and maintain the register of members' pecuniary interests and provide advice and guidance to members in conjunction with the obligations under Part 4, Subpart 3 of the Act. And 2, note the report on mandatory declaration of pecuniary interests and the maintenance of a register of pecuniary interests under the Local Government Act 2002. And Councillor Peters is seconding that. Councillors, this is pretty stock standard practice. This is one of the things that we have to do to make sure things, and as I've said before, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. We have the wonderful Rebecca here to explain anything that she may want to explain to the councillors about this item.
Councillors will recall that we've previously had a briefing on this matter, and unless there are further questions, this is simply about complying with the requirement to appoint a registrar under relevant provisions.
So any questions? Any comments? Councillors, it's been moved and seconded. I won't have the right to reply. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We will now move on to item 6.10, 10, which is on page 136 or 139 of the world. And it's a Civic Centre contract evaluation extension, contract 201010 Civic Centre. And councillors, this has been brought back to us because we unfortunately have put the wrong figures out when we first did the contract. So I'll just move that again, councillors, that one, that the council rescinds the following resolution adopted on the 24th of November 2022, and that is approves a further extension of the contract Con 200210 Civic Centre to 52,400,000 excluding GST to complete the construction of the Civic Centre and associated landscaping and stormwater works, and resolves, number 2, and as you can see the dyslexic moment which may have happened, that council approves a further extension of the contract Con 2010 Civic Centre to 54,200,000 excluding GST to complete the construction of the Civic Centre and associated landscaping and stormwater works. Again, as I've stated before, as this has been moved and seconded, this is just a correction because of a little dyslexic moment, and Alan is admitting full right that he did by accident have a dyslexic moment. It is unusual for that to happen, but it has happened. And again, this is just a standard practice process of going through and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Councillor Connor.
Yes, I think this is one of those issues that being human is one of those things, but also that we didn't pick it up during the meeting too is another one, and being one of the people who seconded it. I think it was seconded. You know, it happens. So I think we just need to get this over done with, and hopefully get the project finished as soon as possible.
Councillor Benny.
Just a question on the bottom of page 139 and top of 140. It says about the October payment due on 20th of November. Can-Am have agreed to waive it provided it is made before the end of November. Has the payment been made? Address.
Thank you. No other questions? No? Or statements? As I said, this is just an I's dotting and a T crossing situation. Since the item has been moved and seconded, all those in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to item 6.11. Thank you, Mr. Echo. This is on page 136, 142 or 145 of the digital version.
Your Worship, just like to note a very small conflict of interest. The person behind this Regeneration Holdings, his grandmother is a sister of my grandmother.
So you are registering an interest, not a conflict? Not a conflict. I do well aware that Waipu is a joint community, and
just let the record show, Your Worship, that grandmother, great grandmother moved up to Kaitaia, where everything goes up there, so but not down one. Thank you.
It's okay, Councillor Cooper. On saying that, do we have a mover of the motion? Councillor Holst? Yes, seconder?
Thank you, Your Worship.
One second, do we have a seconder? Councillor Benny? Yes, go for it.
Okay. The recommendation is the Council, 1, approves the request for road boundary adjustment to a section of unformed Cullen Road, Waipu, as detailed in the agenda item. 2, approves the transaction for a direct land exchange with no compensation by either party for parcels 1 to 9. 3, approves a 50-50 share of all survey and legislation costs for parcels 1 to 9. 4, approves the transaction for a land sale for parcels 10 and 11 for $2,000 plus GST, if any. 5, confirms the applicant will be required to pay for all survey and legal costs for the transaction of parcels 10 and 11. And 6, authorises the Chief Executive to enter any necessary agreements on behalf of Council to complete the legislation.
Councillor Holst, since it's been moved in second, would you like to speak to that?
Oh, just business as usual. It's just a transaction to make sure our roading network stays in good shape, and if we get a positive result from the people in the Waipu area about how willing they are to work with council, I think it's the way to go. So thank you.
Anyone else would like to make a comment or a question? No. Councillor Holst, do you want to write a reply? No. Okay. Councillor, it's been moved and seconded. All those In favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. We'll move on to item 6.12, which is on page 56 of the paper version or page 159 of the digital version. And this is the Freedom Camping Enforcement Program 2022-23, variation to regulatory services contract. And Councillor Benny is moving it. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Reid is seconding it. Councillor Benny, would you like to speak to it? I'd like to actually read the motion, sorry.
One, notes that the council has successfully obtained 200k of Freedom Camping grant funding from the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, 139k of which relates to the provision of education, monitoring and enforcement. Two, notes that on 18th of August 2022, the Strategy, Planning and Development Committee approved up to 99k of unbudgeted Freedom Camping monitoring and enforcement through its regulatory services contract for the 2022-23 season, should funding not be made available by MBIE. 3, approves an alternative MBIE funded enhanced Freedom Camping education, monitoring and enforcement program through the regulatory services contract to the value of up 139k, extending the contract value from $11,933,402.45 to $12,072,402.45, plus escalation provided for under the approved contract, delegates the Chief Executive to execute on behalf of Council the required variation to the contract.
Councillor Benny, would you like to speak to it?
Yeah, so as Councillor Mackenzie and I are aware, the Freedom Camping is, especially along in our area, along the Tukaka coast and up to Whangarei, Freedom Camping is an issue, and it's an issue that rears its head through summer. Really pleased that Council has been able to obtain the 200k of funding that we didn't think was going to be available, and that helps with enforcing the Freedom Camping bylaw. It's really good to see that 139k of it is for education and monitoring and the enforcement as well. So it's not just enforcement, it's education and monitoring, and I'm sure this will please a lot of people along the coast.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. Do we have any other discussions? Councillor Holtz?
Mr. Bush, I just want to back up what Councillor Benny just mentioned, but it's quite noticeable. I went past Ruakaka Beach camping zone the other day. We've got a site meant to have up to 3 camper vans. There's 7 there. So we've already got a problem leading into the summer period. So I welcome the changes. Thank you.
Councillor Connor.
First of all, I would like to ask a question. Will this be extending to locals at the enforcement regarding the enforcement of these type of areas?
Rainer, would you like to answer that question?
For the Chair, if I understood correctly, you're asking whether the enforcement will be extended to locals?
Yes.
No. It's a short answer to that. Council has to appoint warrant officers to enforce other provisions. At the moment, only for this particular function, and Whangarei officers hold those warrants. However, we'd like to add part of the funding will pay for an ambassador program that is run separately from this, and that program engages locals, including Whangarei and other areas, to provide education and guidance to visitors when they first turn up over this coming summer period. So there is that engagement from locals, but not enforcement per se.
Second question, before I speak. The second question is, whilst they are... Whilst the Freedom Camping ambassadors, the Armour Guard staff, are monitoring Freedom Camping, are they also monitoring parking on footpaths and berms in those specific areas also? Or is it specifically Freedom Camping?
Through the Chair, Freedom Camping enforcement officers, from my recollection, are mainly warranted for that particular function. The team leader may hold additional warrants, that will allow him or her to also deal with other emerging issues as they come across them. That's usually the approach with warrants that we issue across all offices. However, if for whatever reason they do not hold an appropriate warrant for a specific situation, or it's got the ability to call for backup, so to speak, to deal with that, or address it. I mean, you know, a warrant is only really good if you want to take enforcement action, so nothing stopping you to talk to somebody if they observe something that's not quite right and ask them to be compliant, which is our first approach anyway.
Thank you. And I'd like to speak to that now, please. This is one of the areas that, whilst I do support it in a stance, I also do not support this because of the fact that there are so many grey areas within this space. I've had discussions in the past, and there are technicalities that are... People view people who live in vehicles or who are homeless or are freedom camping in a different way to your general thing. There are people that are turning up during the day, and during the day, people are just turning up as day visitors. It doesn't matter what type of vehicle you are in, you are not a freedom camper at that point in time. But that is the time when most of the issues are happening. Overnight, when we're having people staying in these campgrounds, predominantly the car park is empty. Nobody is visiting during the night, except for potentially freedom campers. These are one of the things that cause issues due to the fact that we push people around our district. We have so much natural resource around us, and yet we're saying, oh, let's build this building and bring people along to this, and yet we can barely scrape a few $100,000 to look at bylaws rather than actually improve infrastructure. Supporting this group of people is a wider range as well. There are so many people that are affected by this. Homes are going up, and there are people now having to move into vehicles due to the fact of this. There are so many gray areas that these people are having to then get pushed around. There's people with mental issues that are getting situations thrown at them also. But also, when you have a freedom camper in an area overnight, you actually benefit because you get less delinquents doing donuts in car parks and causing havoc and dumping rubbish. Quite often, freedom campers are ones that are actually picking up rubbish as well. They're going out and helping and looking after the environment too. These people, I've had many instances with. Now also, supporting this group of people, sorry, wrong word for that, locals who are expectational of us to provide services, to provide rubbish bins, to do all this, who think, oh, somebody will pick up their rubbish, I love them, I live here, I do this. I've picked up so much trash down banks of locals as opposed to freedom campers. It's ridiculous. There are always bad eggs in every sector of humanity. But it's one of those things that there's too many gray areas for this to be continued. We need to support as much as we can.
Thank you, Councillor Peters.
I'm speaking in support of Councillor Connor. But I also want to endorse the caring and careful practices of our workers towards homeless people and vehicle dwellers. And I also encourage us to move into looking at structural ways of separating vehicle dwellers and homeless citizens from our freedom campers from outside. Both areas are things that we need to support, but our citizens will do. So I'm very torn about supporting this because, again, of what Councillor Collins has said, that there are grey areas, but I actually do have confidence in our staff, Your Worship, to actually be kind and careful of those citizens that we have. Thank you.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you. Could someone please, on point 3, it says up to the value of 39k, extending the contract value from 11 to 12. plus escalation provided under the approved contract. Could someone please clarify that for me? What does that mean? What does it mean that?
Raina, would you like to explain?
I can, thank you for the check. The contract that council agreed to and signed off on earlier in the year allowed for a inclusion of a government mandated minimum wage / pay parity annual increase. So usually on 1 April annually, government announces an increase to a minimum wage rate, and historically, prior contracts, including the current one, provided the ability for Armour Guard to pass on that minimum wage increase to its staff through the contract. The contract is run on an open book, so we know exactly how much dollars an officer gets per hour, and this is to maintain a minimum wage, but also sort of pay parity. So say it goes up by $1 in April 1 next year, that would mean that that would be able to pass on that dollar increase to their staff through the contract that has been in place, as I said, for the last 6 years.
Does that answer your question? That's awesome.
But that's not budgeted for.
It is being budgeted for as far as we possibly can, because we don't know yet how much more money that would add to the contract. There are provisions made to facilitate that, keeping in mind that for the current year we are well below budget, mainly due to staff shortages still experienced in some of the levels, as well as underspent in some of the other areas.
Okay, so thank you.
It's not a concern to us at the moment.
Our CEO would like to make a comment as well.
Yes, councillors, most of our operational contracts have escalation clauses within them, because most of those contracts span a number of years. So it's to be able to cater for increases, actual increases seen within the marketplace, normally linked to Bill, and we've spoken about Bill previously. If these increases, escalation increases, were not allowed for within the contract, then it would mean that the contractors at the very start of the contract would have to make some sort of estimate or judgment as to what escalation may be over the next 5 years or so. So it's to try and take that away. We don't budget for it, but we recognise that there will be cost increases throughout the contract, and sometimes those escalations go above what our budgets are within our particular asset areas. And when that is the case, then we need to look at what we would remove or say within those contracts or elsewhere within the business.
Thank you.
Councillors, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any other discussions? No? Councillor Benning, did you want to run a point? No? No. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carried. Councillors, we'll move on to 6.13, which is on page 158 or 161 in the digital world. And it is in relation to the standing orders for the Whangarei District Council. Do I have a mover? Councillor Cooper would like to move it.
Yes, Your Worship.
And do we have a seconder? Councillor Con at that time, sorry, it was a bit of a toss-up between the three of you there, so Councillor Cooper would like to speak. I'd like to read it and then speak to it, please.
No, you're taking it as read, eh?
Come on now.
So you're going to use standing orders?
For the purpose of the camera there, come on.
Just a little example of standing orders working there. So A, note that Whangarei District Council standing orders are in attachment 1. B, agree to retain clause 19.3 the standing orders for providing for a chair's casting vote. C, agree to retain option A, clause 22.2 of the standing orders as a default option for dealing with motions and amendments, with the option to agree at the start of the meeting to use either option B or C as set out in clause 22.3 and 22.4 of the standing orders. D, agree to retain clause 13.7 of standing orders to allow members to attend meetings by audio-visual link as set out in clauses 13.7 to 13.616 of the standing orders. E, agree to retain clauses 21.2a in the standing orders that allows movers of motions when speaking to the motion not more than 5 minutes. F, adopt the standing orders as included in attachment 1, incorporating recommendations B, C, D and E as resolved. G, delegate to the Chief Executive the ability to make minor typographical and topographical if he wants changes to the standing orders.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Would you like to speak to it?
No.
Have you used up all your 5 minutes? Councillor Cutoff, I saw your hand up there before.
Thank you very much. Coming through from last term and experiencing council, how it is, there are times that I probably should have moved some points of order that I never did. I'm not going to be holding back this term. I am not going to take any, but I am not going to go over the top as well. I will not stand for any bullying, inappropriate comments, lord over behavior, or derogatory terms. This is within our standing orders, and this is being able to be upheld. I know many people around our council have feelings towards these. Maybe they have had some impact by some of these, whatever. I'm not going to stand for this. It takes some general empathy to actually think about the feelings of some other people and how they are and how they present or what their stance is on an issue. And we all have to stand by what we and who we are. I would just like to highlight on page 244, 247, these are the changes that we've had to this document coming into force, so to make sure that people are aware that's where it is. Very last page, pretty much. But I'm also just want to highlight on page 195, 198, electronic, that we have within our document here the opening and closing. Local authority and local boards, community boards may at the start of meetings choose to recognize the civic importance and occasion through some form of reflection. This will be an expression of community values, a reminder of contribution for members who have gone before, or formal welcome, such as a mihi whakatau. Options for this meeting could include karakia, timitanga, mihi whakatau, or popuri, as well as a karakia or to close the meeting as were appropriate. I wanted to highlight this as per yesterday's hikoi over in Kaipara and just bring relevance to that and appreciation that we have this within our document and we are supporting that. One other thing I would just like to highlight is within the motion 13.7 of the audio-visual use, where we can actually have Councillor Holmes beaming in from Melbourne, I believe it is, and able to attend within different time zones, but within our capacity here, which is very, very pleasing. Other than that, thank you very much, and look forward to progressing.
Councillor Harley.
Kia ora, thank you. And just in reference to 4C around should members have a right to attend meetings by audio or audio-visual link, I'm pleased to see that members can now join by audio-visual link and take part in discussions and vote, because I wasn't quite clear on that in our previous workshop. And then it follows on to say that they are not counted as part of a meeting quorum. Can I just get clarification on that? So you can vote, but you're actually not recorded as being...
Through the chair, yes, you're not counted as present for the quorum, and that's set by legislation, so council have no discretion to change that particular standing.
that is in relation to the quorum. It doesn't mean that we're not registered as being there, that it's not part of the quorum. So when we, as you know, we need a minimum number of councillors to run a meeting. If we have majority on audio visual, we can't run the meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Benny.
I just want to highlight clause E, which allows movers of motions when speaking to the motion not more than 5 minutes. And I want to highlight the not more than 5 minutes. And so 5 minutes is not a target. So just and also I hope that Carolyn gets a new watch for Christmas, because sometimes her 5 minutes does drag on. I think it should.
Thank you, Councillor Benny, for that comment. Okay, so now I've been asked to take. Oh, Councillor Holmes, yes, sorry, missed you there.
That's all right. I was just checking whether the system worked. Thank you. Thank you. A couple of things on the clause, and I can't just see the clause now in my papers in front of me, but on the inappropriate and abusive language, for example. Now, all of us were in council at the last meeting where we were subject to some pretty strong language from a member of the public. And I'd just like to clarify, what actions are we able to take should we be in that situation again? Because it was a pretty uncomfortable position. So that really, I'm not sure whether we're able to deal with that today much, but I'd like some reassurance that we've actually got some measures in place that we don't have to be subject to that in the future.
And Councillor Holmes, you've raised a very, very good point there. Carolyn has actually got some wording here that she'd like to read out.
Through the chair, the standing orders provide that the chairperson has the discretion to decline to hear a speaker or to terminate a presentation at any time where a speaker is repeating views presented by an earlier speaker, the speaker is criticising elected members and or staff, and a number of other provisions. So there is the discretion there for the chair to manage that at the meeting.
And I apologise, Councillor Holmes, if it came across that way, that I wasn't there. I was quite well aware of the speaker, and I wanted to make sure that he had his fair chance and wasn't cut short as well. Councillor Holmes, do you want to keep going, Michael?
Sorry, on my second point around the audio-visual thing, it's great to have joined the meeting today, and I'm grateful to your worship and the staff for facilitating that. I'd just like to check whether we, in the new civic building, whether the audio-visual facilities will be permanently available, because I'm conscious that at the moment we have to give suitable notice to allow this facility, and with the best one in the world, some of us will not be able to give that notice if in the event of a family emergency or whatever. So, do we have improved AV in the new civic centre?
I have received a thumbs up from Mr. Adcock. He is definitely saying that yes, the facilities in the new building will be vastly improved from what we've presently got.
And through the chair, just to comment on the notice, there is a requirement for 2 working days notice, but the chair can, if there is special circumstances, the chair can waive that notice and you can give a lesser notice.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hobbs.
Yes, Your Worship, just going back to the comment that Councillor Holmes made about our public speaker at the last meeting. I did say to the council that I'll be checking up with our council secretary in Carolyn, and I did immediately after the meeting, and that's why you're so well prepared for that statement, because you knew it was coming, but there is a procedure put in place to make sure we can control that, but it needs to be a point of order straight away if someone's speaking, if anyone feels uncomfortable, point of order, the mayor then makes a judgment.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Councillor Hobbs. Councillors, I'm well aware that we get into situations where we actually have to, this is how we can run our meetings properly to make sure things are done correctly. So the standing orders are there for that purpose and making sure that things are run correctly for us. I've been asked to take this in parts, or should I say this will be taken in parts. We'll do A to E by majority vote. Now, Caroline, will we be doing on each individual one, or is the whole together?
There's been no change.
Okay, so A to E, we'll be doing A to E as one majority. We'll do F is an adoption of 75% agree, if 70% agree, and then G is majority vote. So it will be 3 parts there, okay, councillors? So the first part
Point of
is...
order,
yes?
I haven't been offered my right of reply.
My apologies. Councillor Cooper, would you like your right to reply?
No, thank you.
Oh, who knew that was coming?
Right, on that point. The items A to E, all those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Now we'll go on to item F, which is adopt the standing orders as included in attachment 1. This is a 75% majority. Do we do a division for this one? Okay, councillors, can we have a show of hands? All those in favour, please.
Carried.
That is unanimous. No, there's not. That's right. So move on to item G, which is majority vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hulse.
It's not necessary, is it? Because we haven't indicated any changes. So.
Minor typographical changes, just in case.
Oh,
Make a typo.
But you use it, so the addition could be wrong.
Yeah. Just to make sure. Okay, so all those in favour of item G?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. Thank you, councillors, on that. We're now going to move into item 6.14, which is on the supplementary agenda. Yep, I know, Councillor Harding, you'd like to stand up and have a walk around. I understand that totally. Item 6.14. Now this, I just need to read out here, subject to the agenda being circulated, item 16.14. Approach to 2023-24 annual plan was distributed separately but not within the time frame specified in the employment. The report was not included in the agenda for the reason that work on the budgeting and engagement options had not concluded at the time of the agenda closure. Council are asked to consider this matter at today's meeting to delay to the next. Councillors are asked to consider this matter at today's meeting to delay to the next scheduled meeting of Council in February could comprise the adoption of the annual plan. Do we have a mover? I'll move to consider it, and Mackenzie. This is to deal with this part of the motion first. So I'll move this. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Mackenzie seconding. All those in favour? Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Okay, we're on to the agenda of the supplementary agenda, which is as it is there. Before we have a mover and a seconder, Simon would like to speak to the motion just to give everyone an understanding.
Councillors, this agenda item allows staff to continue to prepare documentation and information for you in regards to the annual plan. It's always a challenge in an election year to be able to fit everything in as it should be, so we are running short of time and would appreciate direction today if possible, so that we can continue and do the work necessary so that we can adopt the annual plan in accordance with local government requirements. The other comment I would make is that in regards to the recommendations and Council's strategy, current strategy, which indicates 7.9%, that we recognise we are seeing contracts with escalations higher than that figure. So we recognise that we will have to make savings to be able to live in those bounds, and some of those savings may be considerable. So I thought I'd make that particular comment. The other point I would make is that Council and its overall financial position is competitive, and you will have seen that from the agenda and also from the briefings that we've had around this particular subject. So yes, if we can get some direction today, that would be much appreciated.
Councillor Benny, you've got a...
Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation. That the council, one, instructs staff to prepare detailed operating budgets and resulting engagement options for the 2023-24 annual plan based on C, approving option 3, requiring formal consultation along with fees and charges and road seal extension rates with increases excluding growth as follows: 5% to general rates, 5% to wastewater targeted rates, 5% to water targeted rates, including metered water, 5% to flood targeted rates. 2, notes that growth will be allowed for an expected revenue from rates in accordance with the 2021-31 long-term plan. This budget assumption is to account for growth in new rateable properties and allows for an additional 1% for general rates and 0.8% for wastewater and water. 3, notes that a variation of plus or minus 1% excluding growth to the plan 2021-31 long-term plan rates increase of LGCI plus 2%, 7.9% would trigger a formal consultation. 4, notes that draft budgets will be presented to Council early March to formalise the approach for the 23-24 annual plan.
Councillor Benning, move it. Councillor Golightly, you were seconding it? Okay, Councillor Benning, would you like to speak to it?
And please don't think I didn't hear you, Simon, our Chief Executive. I heard every word you said, and I'm regretfully moving item C instead of A and B relate to larger rate increases of 7.9% for A and 8.9% for B. While I understand the reasoning for this, and I understand that inflation is an all-time high, we as a council, when we were first had our induction period, one of the things we talked about was improving how council operates, and I know that we are continually doing that, but in this current environment I think we have a chance to show leadership and to increase our rates by 5%. Now this isn't a zero rate increase, this is a 5% rate increase, which is substantial to people and will still hurt a lot of people. But I just think it's a much better option than A or B, which is 8% or 9% increase in rates. I had 2 phone calls last night, one from a business, a small business operating out of a 2-bedroom house in the region. A 2-bedroom house would normally $2,500 of rates. They're paying $9,000 rates. She's at a stage now where any increase will probably close the doors. And I'd love to be able to say no increase, but we can't do that. We know we've got to continue. We've got increased costs. We've got to continue our services. But we have talked and talked and talked as a council, with staff, without staff, and as councillors, how we want to make changes, how we want to find ways, alternative ways of doing things. Well, we're really good at talking. Now's the time to do some action. So I believe there are improvements to be made, and I believe that 5% is an achievable, is still an increase in our rates, and we will be able to keep our services and reduce and find reductions elsewhere to achieve that.
Thank you, Councillor Benning. Do we have anyone else who wants to talk to us? Councillor Holtz. I'm
going to move an amendment.
Yeah.
I'm going to move a procedural motion. Councillor Benny's outlined, fair enough, an option, but there's major things in play that we've never had before. 3 waters and the removal of stuff from our the financials out of our balance sheet. That's now been approved just this last week, so we haven't discussed any of that at this council. The roading subsidies that have been indicated that could be withdrawing and won't receive much, that has not been discussed up to this point. Our carry forwards and how we're going to get through that, and the increased costs on that hasn't been discussed fully, and are some of those jobs going to be jettisoned? And the other one is inflation. Now, I'm a councillor, been here for a long time, and I've been through this before. I've been through this council when the rate increase was seen at 14 or 15%, and we had to deal with it. And we did, and look at our district now. We got through it, and we're positive, and we came out the other side. In this case, we've got a new finance committee, a new finance chair, who needs time to get his head around and give direction. And I'm thinking with these other 4 major things in place, we need to have a discussion as council because we're responsible for the budget. We need to be able to look in the mirror and say we've done the very, very best for our ratepayers. We have examined the cost structures right across council. We need time to do that, and I'm confident, as I've been through 10 annual plans, 30 annual plans, yeah, and all the long-term planning, that we can make the deadlines, and we are absolutely confident we'll make those milestones and those key points. But at the moment,
I just need to check on one thing, please.
Yep.
It's just been queried to me. Are you speaking to the motion or are you making a procedural motion?
Okay, I'll make a procedural motion that lies on the table to the next council meeting.
Okay, so we've got a procedural motion lying on the table. Councillor Reid is seconding that. So councillors, within a procedural motion, Carolyn, would you like to explain the procedures for that? Just to make everyone understand.
Councillor Pulse has moved a procedural motion, so there's no discussion on these procedural motions. You just get to put it to the vote and decide whether you want to lie it on the table or not.
Okay. So while I did let Councillor Hall speak, I just need, we need a bit of clarification there, okay? So, sorry, just had a quick check behind me there. So the procedural motion is that it's been put. Now,
That it lie on the table.
that it lies on the table.
All those in favour.
So all those in favour?
Sorry, is there a point of clarification? Are we allowed to clarify things?
No.
Was that a yes and a no or a no? No.
It's a no and a no.
A no and a no. So the next council meeting will be the one on the 22nd.
Which is 22nd, that would be correct.
Not that we know that, because there's two no's. Okay.
So the 22nd would be the next meeting. So I just need to clarify here, we're going to be doing a vote on the procedural motion as it is to lie on the table till the next council meeting.
Yes.
Yep. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So the item will now stay, lie on the table until our next council meeting. We will have to be able to have that discussion and go again. I do apologise to those councillors who thought the 22nd they might be able to get away with. At this point, councillors, I will give you a chance to quick stand up because we're going to be moving into confidential. And I'm going to move to close the open session. Sorry, our seconder, Councillor Olsen. So Councillor Reid, Councillor Olsen. All those in favour? Aye. Right.